at, given the requests we're getting. All right. So welcome back to House Gov.Ops and Military Affairs. We're here on Wednesday, March 22nd, picking up a little committee discussion on the Medicare Advantage testimony that we heard from stakeholders this morning. So committee, I had put a couple of potential tweaks to the language, but I wanted to see if folks had any additional feedback before we make at least a kind of informal recommendation over to the House Appropriations Committee about this kind of proposal and concept. I think if we want to take a look at language from Damien that encapsulates the couple of additional tweaks to the proposal that we saw on the table today, I think that would be ideal, just given the timeline, how fast appropriations is moving with trying to wrap up drafts of the budget. I'd like to give them an indication at least of what our sentiments are. So Representative Hooper.
For my taste, as long as our tweaks include a clear differentiation between healthcare bargaining and legal bargaining as constructed in the statute. And that, I'd love to get to a point where substantial is defined as the same, but I don't know how we get to that point. The flaw, I think, in this whole process is the evaluative process. When you get a recommendation from your healthcare provider and the insurance company has the ability to step in and say, well, we don't think you need that. But that's a very deep hole to dive into.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I and the speaker and other folks who said to Ledge Council, can you come up with something that says you got to bring the partners to the table? Because I think the overarching thing that we were trying to alleviate, especially after hearing the commissioner say, we want people to not be afraid of this. We want people to understand the benefits of it from the retirees and state employees. Was trying to put something that would alleviate the concern that there could be some unilateral imposition. And I think we heard loud and clear from the commissioner that wasn't the intent, but we also heard loud and clear from a lot of constituents the fear that that could happen. And so, what we're really trying to do with this language is square a circle somewhat. We're trying to say you got to get, if you want to do healthcare that is different from the plan or it's bifurcated, that it has to be agreed upon between those three parties. And then I think when we make this tweak that we asked Damien to do, it'll be really clear it can't be imposed by a labor board or an arbitrator. Representative Hooper.
The other thing that's kind of outstanding that we haven't talked about yet is if it fails and we've dismantled the existing system, there's how much money in the reserve at this point? Millions. We have an existing bank account that we're paying claims out of, that should be preserved in case at the end of the first period we define our satisfaction as subpar, we can reinstitute and not
the old system
have to reappropriate $50 million to get it going again. But Harold will still do.
No, we understand that question, but it's, if you'd like us to respond, we're happy.
Yeah, Commissioner, if you'd like to respond to that, I do want to make sure we're not potentially putting recommending to the House Appropriations Committee that they completely blow up the entire healthcare system.
I think we're all trying to avoid that. So for the record, I'm Clark Collins. I'm the Deputy Director of Benefits and Wellness. I work out of Department of Human Resources. And the reserve, the Medical Internal Service Fund right now is funded, by the premiums of retirees and active employees. It all goes into one fund. That's what we use to self-insure our plan and pay for claims and such as they roll in. In theory, if we were to go with the Medicare Advantage plan, the premiums that we collect from retirees would equal the premium as set by the Medicare Advantage vendor. So they would not be necessarily driving up the reserves. We would, adjust the premiums for actives as appropriate to cover the claims going forward with that as well. If you were to switch back, we would, I guess it would depend on the timing of that. But if you switch back, you would then alter the premiums for the retirees to therefore also meet what we project their claims to be. So it would feed back into the medical service fund to cover the claims as they would come in. But the question about the reserve in and of itself, we do have a sufficient reserve at the moment to handle, if we went with Medicare Advantage and it failed. The reserve fund is strong enough at this point that we would be able to revert back.
I would imagine if we eliminated the people who are the biggest users of expensive healthcare, that the next time you do an evaluation of what the fund needs, it would drop significantly. And the active employees rate should go down precipitously. And that's my fear, that over the course of a couple of years, it would be depleted to the point that if we did decide to go back, it would have to have an infusion.
I don't think that would be the case, only because, our projections going forward are based on the current premiums that we set. So if we were to revert back, so to say, meaning drop Medicare Advantage, go back to the current system, we would also adjust the premiums that retirees are paying accordingly. So we would have the infusion of the funds coming back in to cover the claims going forward. And our current goal for the reserve is to either slowly build it or at least keep it maintained where it is now with our premiums. So it's, the premium that we have, or the reserve that we have right now, should be sufficient.
Okay.
Thank you very much for sharing that. So, committee, at this point, we've got a few minutes until we're scheduled to switch gears and hear the appropriations feedback on another bill. Given the timeline, Andrea, would you please,
Take us live.
we are live. No, we're live. Just got an email with draft language. So would you please post what Damien just sent us? I was struggling with, I really would like us to take a peek at this before we say this is what we want. And here it is. So
You made it happen.
I willed
it into existence, yes.
I've been thinking at Damien for 20 minutes, and the poor guy is dealing with both Senate and another major House bill request. So in this citizen legislature, we are very lucky to have dedicated, incredible staff who can hold 3 or 4 very crazy things in their head all at the same time. Complicated, I should say, not crazy. Damien, so we were just praising you and thanking you so much for.
You called me crazy?
I was saying that you had a lot on your plate this morning, I would say.
Way possible.
So I had asked, just in case it doesn't pop up really quickly here, I will forward this attachment to everybody.
No, it should be there.
Yeah, but it should be there too.
Okay, so for the record again, are we live?
We are, yeah. We're having a little committee discussion, and then I was saying, okay, so we have some ideas on the table, but no language yet. So, and then you walked in, and your email appeared, and
So for the record again, Damien Leonard, Legislative Counsel. You have I forgot to update the draft number in the corner, so ignore that. But it should be showing as V3 FY24 budget, et cetera, for the file title. And I'm not sure.
There, I put draft 2 on it.
Draft 2, great. So draft 2 on the website. You see all sorts of labels on this.
I see 1.2.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 1.2 is I forgot to update that. Anyway, if you look to page 2, in the middle of page 2, under B, highlighted in yellow, it says the alternative health coverage is mutually agreeable to the state, the VSEA, the VTA, and the VRSEA. So I will never forget the name of the Retired State Employees Association after today. So it is drilled in my head now. So that's the first change. And if you scroll down to the fourth page at the very bottom, we're amending 3 VSA 925, which is the impasse resolution process for state employees. And what we've done, you'll see that we have at the top of page 5, subdivision I1, you can ignore that. I have to include it because subdivision I is where the language is. There are no changes. That's the state colleges and UVM. Below that, though, under I2, you'll see at the very bottom of the page, we've added a sentence that says a party's last best offer shall not include a proposal to provide alternative health coverage to retired state employees that has not been agreed to pursuant to the provisions of subdivision 379A2 of this title. This is important because it recognizes that they could have agreed to something ahead of time, so we don't want to prohibit the last best offers from including what they agreed to. But it also calls out that they can't put in a new proposal at last best offer to try to do an end run around that process.
Representative Henga.
Thank you. So Damien, does this include all of the people named in 1 and 2? So 1 names the Vermont State Colleges and University of Vermont, 2 names the Department of State's Attorneys and Sheriffs?
It only includes the state of Vermont and Department of State's Attorneys and Sheriffs in that section.
Okay.
The Department of State's Attorneys and Sheriffs actually are already, if you look at that, if we go to the statute there for the state's attorneys and sheriffs, I believe that they're already excluded from bargaining over the health insurance. So under VSA 904A8, it says terms of coverage and amount of employee financial participation in insurance programs, except that the Department of State's Attorneys and Sheriffs and the deputy state's attorneys, other employees of state's attorneys' offices and deputy sheriffs paid by the state shall not bargain in relation to terms of coverage and the amount of employee financial participation in insurance programs. So they already can't bargain over that, so they're prohibited from including it in their last best offer. So this, by leaving it in there, we're not creating some outside permission. They're already prohibited. You can't submit a last best offer that addresses things that you're not allowed to bargain over. For example, you couldn't say, as part of this last best offer, we're going to agree that no one gets paid the minimum wage. You all make $4 an hour. You just can't, you can't go around the law. But so right there, so there isn't a problem, I guess, and we don't need to do a broader rewrite. The next section, 3 VSA 1018, this is the Judiciary Employees Labor Relations Act. So because they're also affected by this, we've added a new subdivision 3 in 1018I that says a party's last best offer shall not include a proposal to provide alternative health coverage to retired employees that has not been agreed to pursuant to the provisions of subdivision 379A2 of this title. If you're reading really closely, you noticed I said employees instead of state employees. It's because the two terms are defined in those sections. So state employees and state employees labor relations. In judiciary, they just use the term employees. And then otherwise, we just renumber the rest of that section. I apologize to everyone who's trying to read this out on their phones or other small screen devices. Are there questions?
Just a quick note that it looks like the Romanet in the first piece for the Vermont Retired State Employees Association should be Romanet 4, and it's II right now instead of I. So
Well,
For next drafts, we appreciate the speed with which you put this together.
Just get flagging that for.
I will correct that on the fly right now, so.
Eagle Eye Matt Byron
I
here.
brought something to the table today. Yeah.
I just said that.
Okay, so on the words on the page, any questions for Damien about what we're doing here? I think we bit off a lot more than I thought we were gonna have to, in terms of the arbitration language, but I think you have really done a great job of capturing what I was trying to get at. Representative Hooper, you feel like that addresses the concerns you brought up? Okay.
I'd like to point out that $4 an hour thing was a Shumlin proposal, not.
Oh, hey, let's not,
Can't comment on these
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
so.
not bring up any old trolls. So committee, any questions here? I think what I'd like to do is send a clean copy of this over to appropriations with a little summary letter of what we heard and what we're trying to get at so that they understand our intent and the haste with which we put together this recommendation for the inclusion. So as I'm laying that on the table for a potential straw poll, is there any further questions or discussion that folks want to have before we make a recommendation to House of Commons?
No, my only question would be, people are satisfied with this, the people who are asking, is that satisfied-ish?
Yeah, so my hallway conversations with both the VRSEA and the VSEA were that they felt like these were improvements over our original proposal. I think the preference would be that we had adopted the language that they had put in front of us. I think after conversations with legislative council, that wasn't the direction that we were going to head in today. And
Not ideal, but acceptable.
yeah, so I think we're doing our best to
Yep.
come up with where we're not completely closing the door, but we want the parties to all agree if there's going to be anything like this Medicare Advantage proposal going forward, that it can't be unilateral. Representative Higley.
Again, maybe I'm confused, but looking at the bottom two changes referring to 379A2, is that what we're looking at, or are we looking at 479A2?
Let me just, did I have another typo in there? Let me pull it up.
I think it should be 479A2, right?
You're right, it should. I will correct that and
So that was just in the
It's just
highlighted. Gotcha. It was
reference
just
in
an
the-
errant keystroke. Gotcha.
it was.
Catch representative. Three's next to four.
Yes, I appreciate everybody's
Tags uncommon.
close reading here. Okay, I've corrected those two. So you are all going to be getting version 3.2, which will, no highlighting with the corrections to the Romanet and to the cross-reference. Thank you both for being such good proofreaders. And I will send that to the whole committee in just a moment here.
Judge Council augmentees.
Okay. Is there anything else for me, Mr. Chair?
No, I think we're good. Representative Hooper, did you have any questions?
No, I was going to see if you wanted a motion to move it forward.
We'll just get the clean language from
I just emailed it, so.
To all of us?
Yes, to the whole committee this time.
Just went.
So,
Bingo. Are turning in. No. Oh, you sent it in an email. Okay. Yeah.
yep.
Got it. Raj.
Yeah, sorry, they don't give give attorneys the authority to post to the website. They're smarter than that here. Don't let us do anything like that.
Yeah. Committee assistants coordinator.
Yeah.
He's.
You'd suddenly have links breaking and all sorts of other problems going on with the website.
Okay.
Weird thing is I saw something posted by the janitor the other day.
So Representative Hooper, I would, so this will be a straw poll. So it's not a formal vote, but I wanted to poll the committee before we make a recommendation to include this language in the big bill. So to unofficially move version 3.2.
An unofficial move to advance version 3.2 to appropriations for their review.
So can we do a show of hands of support for inclusion? All right. So we are 10-02. So thank you for all.
Very welcome.
For everybody who came in today. So I will be sending this over shortly to our colleagues in House of Crips and communicate the will of the committee. Really good work this morning. So we have Representative Harrison here to pick up our work on H127, the sports wagering bill. So something completely different. I believe you're going to be sharing with us the House Appropriations Committee's recommendations on H127.
Do you want Tucker up here as well, or?
Yeah, so Tucker, do you want to walk us through the House Appropriations Amendment? And then
He's the appropriate guy to have here.
it's gonna be a dad joke day here in
Is that a challenge? Is that a challenge? Throw it down. I don't know, because I can dad joke for days.
All set?
Welcome, Representative Harrison and Tucker. Thanks for being with us.
Morning, Representative Jim Harrison from House Appropriations. And I'll turn it over to Ledge Counsel.
Well, good morning, Tucker Anderson, Office of Legislative Counsel, I guess. It's quite the introduction. You should have in front of you draft 1.2 of the House Appropriation Amendment to H127. There are 3 instances of amendment, and procedurally, an upfront explanation. House Appropriations is amending the House Ways and Means Amendment that you reviewed yesterday. So as this comes up on the floor, this amendment amends the amendment that's amending your amendment.
Great.
Got it.
So
do we
This is a further amendment to the Ways and Means Amendment?
correct.
Okay.
And what House Appropriations has done here is replaced all of the appropriations related components of the House Ways and Means Amendment. So yesterday, you heard that House Ways and Means proposed to amend your bill to have all of the money come and go from the general fund to DLL and DMH for various purposes. What the Appropriations Committee has done is establish an enterprise fund, sports wagering fund, where all of the revenue and fees will go to, where all of the money will come out of through what's known as a direct app. And this reflects the current practice for the other enterprises that DLL runs. We discussed it yesterday, but that would be the Liquor Control Enterprise Fund and the State Lottery Fund. The first instance of amendment amends the 5th instance of amendment in the House Ways and Means Amendment in section 1304 to state that all of the revenues and fees received by the department will go to the sports wagering fund. House Appropriations then amends the 9th instance of amendment to create the sports wagering fund in a new section 1341. In subsection A, and we're on line 17, you'll note that the fund is established and it's stated that it shall consist of all revenues and fees received by the department pursuant to the sports wagering chapter and all amounts that are from time to time appropriated to DLL for those purposes. In subsection B, and we're on page 2 now, it says that the department's administrative and operating costs shall be allocated to and paid from the fund based on GAAPs, generally accepted accounting principles. all of this language directly reflects the language that establishes and controls the Liquor Control Enterprise Fund. So essentially, this language is exactly the same. Section 1341A is then established, and this just takes the language that was put together by the work committee and then House Ways and Means to establish a problem gambling program instead of a problem gambling special fund.
Problem gambling program stays
in
the House Appropriations Committee. The problem gambling fund has gone away. We're now working with the Liquor Enterprise Fund.
Correct. The third instance of amendment that appropriations puts in place keeps all of the same spending amounts that you had in your bill and the House Ways and Means then had, but it makes it so that all of that money is going to come from the sports wagering fund. So although these 3 pages seem somewhat complicated because of the procedures here, really what appropriations has done is taken this sports wagering fund that they're creating and put it in place of the general fund so that all the money goes into the sports wagering fund and all of the spending comes out of that same fund. Representative Harrison will likely be able to give you some more background on how this will play out, but that would allow, after the appropriations are made for this fund, to deficit spend, is that the correct term?
Yes.
In the interim until revenues start being received by this enterprise fund. I will now hand it over to Representative Harrison, and hopefully that was a good setup.
You did an excellent job. I am proud to be at the same table as you articulated the amendment that you drafted for us. Yeah, no, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think Tucker outlined it fully. Our motivation was to keep it separate, just like we do with liquor and with lottery, with special funds. It's the state's in a business here, and it's cleaner to keep it in and out of that fund. And then each year, money will get swept over from finance and management as part of their budget so it will end up back in the general fund, any profits here. Happy to try to answer any questions if you have, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Just for background sakes, the vote, I believe, on the amendment itself was 12-0-0. The vote on the bill as amended was 11-1-0. So it was a strong vote.
So far be it for me to question the philosophy behind the fund versus no fund, but it seems that there was an evolution away from having a special fund in Ways and Means. Appropriations Committee prefers the methodology so that I assume so we can track what money is being spent, that kind of allowing the special fund to deficit spend lets us know sort of how deep in the hole we got before the program stood.
Practical method, nothing really changes. You have expenses, you have revenue in it, and hopefully you have a net that, will end up in the general fund to be spent in a variety of government services. For appropriations, we believe it, as much as we are hesitant on setting up new special funds, in this case, we believe it makes sense. Additionally, it allows us to, the initial startup expenses of somewhere around $550,000 to be spent without using general fund dollars, which in spite of the surplus are in short supply when we put all the wants and needs together. Those startup costs will get paid back directly by fee revenues and other revenues from the sports betting operation once it's up and going.
Any questions about the House Appropriations Committee's amendment? Well, Representative Harrison, thank you for joining us and for your work on this. I think for our next step will be to kind of consider all of these amendments in context of the evolution. So as I understand it, we would need to support the Ways and Means Committee's amendment when further amended by the Appropriations Committee's amendment. So we almost need to take a position on just both as a package. I think is the logical thing to do. Is there any concerns or committee discussion about the approach here? All right, great. Well, then we should take a straw poll on the Ways and Means amendment and the appropriations amendment. So on the Ways and Means amendment, with the anticipation that it will be further amended, I assume we're okay with that language because it has policy language that's not further amended by this. So we need to do a separate straw poll. We're okay with the Ways and Means amendment. Representative Byron, show of hands. Yeah.
Yep. No, I was just looking at the two, seeing where they intersect.
You know, I was just looking at
It's
the
the-
Ways and Means one.
Yeah, it's the fifth instance of amendment is 1304 revenues and general fund. Yep.
So it looks like we're 1101 straw poll for your floor report because they'll ask for our committee's reaction. So we're 1101 on the Ways and Means. And then when further amended by the Appropriations Committee amendment, is everybody on board with the Appropriations Committee amendment? Show of hands. Straw poll is unanimous in the room, so that's 1101 on the House Appropriations Committee amendment. Representative Byron, is there any further work for us to do on this? Do we need to take an official straw poll on?
We did that yesterday
Oh, we did
on
it.
mine.
Sorry.
Yes, no, we
We've
just
done
have
that.
to, so I guess sort of just the like air traffic control, like that's a floor amendment, or do we?
So yeah, so
Yeah,
that's a
we're
floor
having to do
amendment.
that for, yeah.
Yep, so what'll happen, my understanding is that we'll have your report, then prior to the question, there'll be the other committee's reports.
Yes.
And each one of those, the speaker will say, speaking for the committee.
Yeah.
She'll ask for you to communicate our support for those two amendments. And many thanks for the good work of our money committees.
Mm-hmm.
And then once all that wraps up, there'll be debate on the whole package.
This, yeah.
Yeah, prior to the vote on shall the bill be read a third time.
Correct. And so I guess, yeah, so that was just my last hanging question was, because we don't want to take possession of the building. We just want to-
Yeah, that's right. So
Yeah,
your
just from like us managing it like no.
yeah, so your amendment it is technically being offered just by you as a floor amendment.
Yes.
And but with the straw poll, since we didn't take the bill back, which is pretty common with the floor amendments. And then so that'll come after we vote on the whole package. It's particularly important just from a rules perspective that because the Appropriations Committee amends sections that were in the Ways and Means Committee, that those parts
It's like a
all get
chain.
done.
Yeah.
And then your part amends other sections of the bill or adds additional language. So I think we're
Not complicated at all.
no, it's not. It's a little bit of
Just process.
yeah. This is how we get to almost getting to third instances of amendment. Now, if you really want to nerd out with me for just a minute, I think that we have reached the limit with the Appropriations Committee amendment to how those specific sections could be amended on the floor. Because we have the underlying bill. It's being amended by the Ways and Means Amendment once. It's being amended again by the Appropriations Committee amendment, and you can't have a third instance of amendment. So you only get two. So on all those money sections that the Appropriations Committee, if anybody wants to propose a floor amendment, they're out of luck.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So we've reached the limit.
Yeah.
We've reached the limit on this one of what we can do with all of those sections that are covered by that bill. So for anybody who's following the instances of amendment, But good work on this bill. It seems like we're ready to go. Are you ready to do your floor report?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Excellent.
So.
And Representative Waters Evans, you are going to be reporting the notary's bill today. That's
I sent it to you, did you see it?
I'll take a quick look when we break.
Okay.
I'll bet you do a good job, Matt. I'll bet.
Thank you, Andrea.
You wanna put a pool on
Well,
that?
maybe we'll have some.
Yeah.
wager.
You wanna do an over or under on how many,
Over under
None
question?
of us would
how many
know.
questions I got? Yeah,
So it's on notice today and it'll be up for action tomorrow?
I guess so. Yep.
Wouldn't you say the phrase?
That's just we need another bill to oral.
Be an oxymoron?
That's gonna be busy.
What's that?
A number of them are for referral though. They're not all.
Yeah.
Some of them have come out of a money committee. The other
You
ones-
don't need the adjective.
They're not all actually up for reports tomorrow. All right, well, I've got a little note I need to write over to appropriations, and we're on the floor at 1:00. I think that completes our work for today. So we'll adjourn a little early here for lunch unless anybody has any other business for us.